and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of the FlappCast, Behind the Funny, where we find out what goes on behind the scenes at a comedy club, and this week, a comedy festival. I'm Barbara Holliday.
I'm Joshua Snyder.
And we have an amazing guest with us today, Daniel Paul.
Hello there.
All right, you can applaud, audience. Who is Daniel Paul, you're saying? Well, so we have been doing tons of events this week for the part of the Burbank Comedy Festival, and we just finished a comedy development panel in which Daniel moderated. And gosh, where do I start with your credits? Daniel is one of those guys who looks at comedians and helps develop projects for them. Previously worked for Power Entertainment. Also helped develop a brand called Laugh Mob, which does comedy specials. Am I giving you the right credentials?
You're going down the correct road.
Was Power Entertainment named after a guy named Power, or Power as a concept?
You know what? It's a great question, and there's a bad story about how Power Entertainment came to be. A manager.
Tell us.
There was a manager, and I'm not going to name names, but there was a manager that worked for another manager at a management company, and he decided to break off in a really weird way and took some of the clients while, I guess the...
Should I name names?
No.
Okay.
And basically snuck out when the lights were off and started another management company with some of the top earners from the previous management company.
What? That's like comics stealing jokes.
And then there was a
bad.
big lawsuit, and it was eventually settled.
Ugh.
But that's part of the business, I guess.
But now you're on your own, right? So
I'm on my own, and I consult a lot of people and work with different brands and helping to leverage them.
What does that mean, working with different brands? What do you mean by that?
Well, I look at talent, and I look at writers, and everybody is a brand. I mean, at the end of the day, is you're creating, you're developing, and you have multifaceted avenues, especially in today's world, to deliver content over different mediums.
But Josh, don't we hate that as comedians? We're like, I'm not a brand, I'm an artist. What about that?
As in front of Daniel, I am any brand that he thinks he can sell.
Oh. Wait, you're making him decide. What?
I cannot decide your brand. Your point of view, your voice is your brand.
I'm a leading man.
I'm Pamela Lee Anderson.
A man about town.
Okay.
Why is this so funny? All right.
Are you a comedic man? Are you a dramatic man?
He's a virgin brand.
Are you a novelist? Could you write a comedy book?
Yeah, I think so.
So then there's multifaceted places you could be. So your brand is extended into multiple distribution outlets. So it's really just how you're creating the content and where you're delivering that content.
Gotcha.
But so say you're a comic like Joshua here, who does a lot of nerdy virgin type comedy and sci-fi stuff. So is that his brand? I mean, could you do something with that, or?
With a nerdy virgin brand?
I think you just answered the question.
I can.
I see that as a character, possibly, that could be developed into a movie, but I don't know what the longevity of it is, because 4-year-old virgin was done.
Oh, see? But he's 32-year-old virgin.
Not anymore. Just lost it.
That's right. He's not a virgin anymore. But here's my question about it. From a marketing standpoint, it's kind of interesting because do you think saying that is a hacky thing to call him the nerdy virgin or the not nerdy virgin anymore? Or should comics identify themselves like that, or should they just be doing comedy like that, or what do you think?
I think it's hard to put a title on it, and I think that once you put a title on it, eventually that title wears out, and then you have to reinvent yourself. Whereas if you just come out as yourself, you never have to reinvent it because your comedy, your point of view is constantly changing, because you'll go from a single life, maybe to a married life, or in a relationship, maybe with kids. So your point of view is constantly changing, but you're still the same brand.
Mm.
But how would a comedian pitch themselves to you then? There
would be no pitch.
Ah.
You would go up on stage, and we'd either see if you got a point of view or you don't. So you're either telling jokes, and you're telling us about who you are and what you have to say about society and the world. It's so unique and different that a large audience would want to hear and see. That's your point of view.
So you're saying that you find them, they don't find you.
Well, the best way to say it is, hey, can you come out and see my show? Or, hey, have you seen my link online? Or, hey, I've got a huge audience, and all with that person.
Oh, that always works. With a club owner, by the way, as well.
That works with everybody. Works with a club owner, works with a manager, an agent, anybody in trying to put projects together and create distribution outlets. If you have an audience, I think it was best said in The Gladiator, if you win the audience, you win the hearts, you win the kingdom. Wow. Come with the audience.
You know that quote, right? I do.
Actually, no, there wasn't a spaceship in that, so I didn't.
No, spaceship.
Well, it's interesting because what you're saying is so true, and I'm always kind of trying to mention that. But comics sometimes lie about that too. I have to be honest. Like they'll say, "Oh, can I have a show on Thursday? You know, my whole family's coming, and I want to bring out a lot of people." And then they show up, and they're like, "Oh, nobody could come," and so that's a weird dynamic, I think.
I can't speak on.
Have you ever had that happen?
On a club owner's perspective, you know what? I've seen it happen. I've never experienced it because I've never been on that side to say, hey, they're coming out with a gazillion people. But to that point, I have seen the fact that people, and I'm dealing with this day to day with different people that I'm working with, and it's not necessarily to their fault, it's just trying to figure it out, whereas you have a big social media following, but those people aren't activated. And what I mean by activated is they don't participate. So you have those numbers on your Instagram, or you have those numbers on your Vines, and you look at it and you're like, wow, these people have a lot of people following them. There are, you know, say there's, I'm just going to make up some round numbers, say there's 10,000 people following them, but you only get 150 likes on a post. Your activation is very low. You should have at least, you know, 1,500 to 2,000 likes on every post. So you have to learn how to activate them, and then obviously the club owner wants to say, well, can we get those people in the club?
And buying tickets.
That's an activation. These people will pay money to come out and see.
That's so salesy, though. Ew, you're like a sales guy, right?
I don't necessarily think it's a sales guy. It's really about the
What do you do, Daniel? See, I'm trying to explain this whole development thing. It's interesting. It's on our panel earlier, we didn't, those of you listening who attended, it was interesting because we didn't go that much into how important relationships are. But like what you really do is you connect a comedian with the right, maybe network, maybe distributor,
it's a producer.
You're a producer.
That's a producer's job and role. I mean, there's different facets to do it. I just look at myself more as a brand builder and a brand manager. It could be a project manager. I mean, there's different titles, but it all means the same thing. At the end of the day is, you're a brand. The comic is a brand. They've got a point of view. They can be sold. You're commerce. You're art. You're the CEO of your board.
The talent.
You're the talent. You're running your business, and then you have your manager who helps you organize everything. You got your agent who's your sales force. You got your publicist who's taking care of your PR. But at the end of the day is, you're the product. You're the brand. You are everything. And there are multifacets that need to be taken care of on a daily basis.
So what are some of the people that you've helped develop? Or who are some of the people? Come on! And then you have the Laugh Mob brand you helped
Was it
develop.
Obama? You helped Obama, didn't you?
I did not help Obama. That's not a bad thing. I just have not been involved in the campaign. I mean, there's good things and there's bad things about all those brands. But at the end of the day, some of the stuff I've worked, I mean, I've worked at Overbook. I mean, there's a lot of things that I've helped and I've had my hands in piece of, and I helped other people build businesses and companies, and have, you know, stepped out over the past 4 years in trying to really define myself as most separated from other people's companies. So, like, you know, I've worked at Klasky Chupo. I've helped Will Smith start Overbook Entertainment.
Will Smith, yeah.
It was back in the day. I was there. You know, we did the first pilot with Canon to help, you know, get going. So there's been a lot of different aspects. I worked at Fox Broadcasting Network. So, you know, I've been a part of a lot of other people's great success. And in this business, it takes a village. So, you know, that's what I look at right now. It's like when I'm working with a comic or working with a writer, it's like, okay, how do we build a village?
Right.
In order to get that made into a big theatrical or television show.
Yeah, well, comics do think it's just one, they kind of, I think, especially with an agent or manager, they think, oh, well, you're going to make my career. You're the one. You have to do it. And that's a fun one to deal with.
It's a lot of work, and it takes, again, I mean, especially in comedy versus drama. Comedy is a very subjective business, so you got a lot of people with different points of views. So at the end of the day is, how do you get a majority of those people to be on board? You're going to get a lot of no's, but that doesn't mean that it's the end of the day, because, again, everybody's got a different point of view, and everybody likes different things. Some people like raunchy comedy, some people like clean comedy, some people like church comedy.
Right.
It all depends.
But you know what's funny is you came to me and you said, hey, Barb, I really need to find some comedians who have a very solid point of view. And I was thinking to myself, how few actually of the comedians that I know actually really have what you're looking for, like a real solid, strong perspective, you know?
And that comes with age, and I think age and experience. There are very few young people that can have a mark on society. You know, that could be their upbringing so that they became adults at a very mature young age. But at the end of the day, as you look at some of the comics that have really broken through, it's been years of work and learning and experiences in life. I mean, experiences really make you who you are, so those experiences really grow. And then by the time you're in your 30s and 40s, you really have your strong point of view.
So this is a business. Is that what we're saying here?
At the end of the day, I mean, I've sat in some really great rooms with some really successful people, and at the end of the day is, yes, it's not called entertainment business
Right.
for a reason. I mean, it's funny business.
Right. That's what we're here to do. So, like Will Smith, though, in your experience in working with him, was he off stage, you know, different than he was on stage, or
He was great.
is he a good business person? Is he a good promoter? Is he a good marketer? Did he understand his brand?
I think he understood his brand at a young age more than anyone. I think it was publicized somewhere that he lost, when he was a rapper, he lost his first $1 million and swore that he would never do that again. I think,
$1 million?
And I'm not sure, I remember this, and you know, can't quote me on it because I'm just remembering what I read. This wasn't any word for him, but
We'll accept a paraphrase.
okay. It was after Kids Just Don't Understand. Parents just don't understand. And thank you for correcting me.
Wow.
And he made a lot of money off of that. And then I believe the story goes that he lost a lot of money, and for some reason $1 million stuck in my head. And then he swore he would never do that again. So he understood. That's where he got his learning about the business. It's like,
How would you lose $1 million, Josh? I don't know. How would I do it? Let's see.
It would
Star
involve-
Trek paraphernalia?
I think I'd build a bridge on in my apartment.
I don't know how.
friends and family these days, everybody's like, "You got a million? Can you help me out?"
Well, you also, on a personal note, are a soccer coach, isn't that right?
I am.
What is that? How did you get involved in that? Your kids?
That's how it's
You're
all
a
about
soccer
having
player?
kids.
Were you a soccer player?
I was a soccer player in high school. You know, played some rec ball after that, but it's all about the kids.
Right.
What was the name of the team?
I currently am coaching a team for Euro Club over in Van Nuys, Sherman Oaks. But I also sit on the board of the AYSO Rec League over at Region 58 and help those kids out as well.
So do you think, is there a similarity in what you do in your business on the soccer field?
I gotta tell you, you know what? Coaching kids, I started coaching them at a young age, has really helped me in my professional life and how to work with different restrain and how to work with different personalities.
I bet they're so much more mature.
Than comics?
The kids,
The kids?
yes.
Yes, definitely.
You know what? You know what's worse than kids? It's parents on the sidelines.
Oh my God! Parents on the sidelines. Forget
That's the
stage
show.
parents in general. But you're a parent, so you don't act like that?
You know what? It's everybody each their own, I guess, is really what it is. And they're out there to have fun, and they should have fun. Are we taking questions?
No. This is a podcast.
We're
man.
passing notes.
No, we were supposed to have Joey Medina on our podcast today. Unfortunately, I just got slipped a note that he's not going to make it. But my co-owner, Dave Reinitz, if someone could go grab him, we're going to have him help us with Punch It Up. But what's great is this week we have tons of comics in the room right now. We're so excited because we're right in the middle of our first annual Burbank Comedy Festival. And so far, how is it going, everybody? Enjoying it? Woo! We've been doing classes all morning, panels in the afternoon, podcasts, and then shows at night, and then after parties tonight. In fact, there's an after party at the Holiday Inn, Crystal View Lounge in Burbank. Everyone is invited to attend. There's free food, and comics are going to be doing an underground showcase. What do you think about that? Do you ever go watch that kind of stuff, or?
You know what? I do, and I think that's really where you just see some interesting things. 'Cause, you know, everybody thinks underground's a little different. So, what kind of underground are we talking about?
You know, well, what we wanted to do is a lot of comedians submitted to be in the festival, and we weren't able to choose everyone, unfortunately, because we just have a week. We had over 250 submissions and narrowed it down to about 160 comics, which, I wish maybe next year we'll go 2 weeks. I don't know. But it was such a hard decision. And so we wanted to have an opportunity for comics who are just coming into the area and want to get up. And that's what we created, these little underground showcases.
Although technically this one is way on the top floor, right?
It's not underground at all.
Right.
It's really above ground.
Underground
yes,
in parentheses.
It is. It's like
we don't want anyone to
Is there a nice view up?
It actually, I'm not plugging the Holiday Inn right now, but it's called the Crystal View Lounge. It's at the top of the Holiday Inn. It overlooks all of Burbank. So if you ever wanted to see Burbank from one location, that is where you would go. And tonight, we have the room all to ourselves. You and me and a bunch of comics.
It's the closest you'll get to seeing Burbank as viewed by God.
Yes, God bless the town of Burbank with a lot of politics and, oops, sorry, City of Burbank, thank you for sponsoring us, by the way. Actually, we were so lucky. I myself was a comic. A lot of people listening may not realize that. I started my career as a kids club host for Fox Television. So I was on air, and then after that I did some sketch comedy and stand-up for a while. In fact, I met my partner, Dave Reinitz, in a stand-up class. So that was about 19 years ago. You can believe that. I know I only look 19, right? But we've been doing comedy ever since, and I really enjoy the business side more.
Wait, everybody stop and say, yes, she only looks 19.
Thanks.
Good.
Oh, God, pay them all. But it's been interesting for me because I've been able to see both sides, and I really do enjoy the business side. And a lot of comics, the reason we started this podcast actually was to talk about, what goes on behind the scenes. Like, it's so beautiful when you see the comic on stage, everyone's laughing, but people don't realize how much goes on behind that. Like how many people, like you said, a village to get that comic on stage, and then the coaching that happens with the comic,
And have to be willing to take that coaching.
Yeah. Well,
That's the hard part. I mean, the hard part is not getting in your own way and really taking constructive feedback. I think that where a lot of comics get caught up in is listening to other comics and the competition backstage or and the negativity that follows it because of the jealousy if somebody is making some headway. And I think that what people need to understand, and I've worked with some comics who have gotten to B level, but came up the ranks, and I think it's really interesting when you see comics come up together and one person gets success earlier in their career and may go off and do a feature, and other comics will then at some point say, wait, if they're doing features, I should be doing features. But that's not necessarily the case. You may take a different route to get to point B. So you may go to C to D and then back to B, but at the end of the day the marathon is still there and you'll all end up at the finish line of where you're supposed to be, but they're not the exact same journey for everybody.
Right. Okay, so Dave Reinitz, my partner in crime, has joined us here on the podcast. Say hello, Dave. It's a radio show. Yeah. Oh, you got one applause. You are so popular.
It's too late now. You had your chance.
Dave actually is a comedian and my partner, but he never lets me call him the co-owner. He hates that, right? Because he's a comedian.
No, that's not really why.
Well, what's cool about what's going on here, if I may, can I talk about the relationship that Dave and I have with Daniel, which is kind of cool for the comics to hear.
Wow, that's hot.
We're a threesome. Yeah, it's cool.
Notice where I'm sitting in the middle of this relationship?
Nice.
Well, what's fun is Dave has been performing for, as I said, has it been 20 years for you, maybe?
No,
19?
it has not.
Okay. All right, and Dave has a very distinctive point of view, which is basically denying everything I say.
That's not true.
Yeah. Perfect. I said to him the other day, you never agree with me on anything, and he said, I agree with you on that.
That's not true. I don't agree with that at all. I take things for what they are.
But Dave's been doing comedy a long time.
I haven't been doing comedy a long time. I did my first show, it was December of 1996 at Igby's Comedy Club. So that's the first time I ever went up, and then I was pretty much a hobby comic for, I don't know, a good long time.
That's a new term, a hobby comic? Is that like a...
That's when you're not making any money.
Well, no, it's when you're not, I never perceived myself as wanting to be a full-time comic, and it just never kind of occurred to me. So I was just doing it for fun and, to meet girls, and that's an interesting way to go after it. But it was always fun, and I kind of just started making progress and started feeling better about what I was doing. And
Well, Daniel came in and saw, and we had done some business with other comics over the phone.
we did some business.
We
on the
did some
phone.
funny business, making some connections, and then Daniel actually saw Dave do a set, or Dave, Initiative Comics. Dave emailed Daniel a link of his most recent set when he felt ready.
He asked permission first.
Somebody
Yep.
told me early on is when you're ready, and push when you're ready. And if you push before you're ready, nothing good is going to really happen. And so I remember Mike Lacey, who owns the Comedy and Magic Club. I used to live down there, and I've been a restaurant guy forever, and so I knew him through restaurant operations. And he said, send me an audio tape. And I said, well, this was maybe a long time ago, and I hadn't been doing comedy for very long.
When they had cassettes, audio.
Yes, that's true.
That's true.
And I said,
And
okay,
8-tracks.
as soon as I'm ready, I'll send you a tape. And so soon I'm going to send him a tape. Because I was always intimidated by that club, so until I was really ready, I didn't want to send a tape. And so I'm not the most pushy, I'm not the most aggressive comic. For me, it's always been just about trying to be funny and trying to make audiences laugh and trying to talk about things that mattered to me and be a relevant voice. That was always important.
Which means complaining about me.
And I started, some good things started happening to me a few years back. I went to Bangladesh and I did a weekend of shows in Bangladesh, which was kind of cool. Dude brought me over and paid my way, and that was fun. And I started doing better shows around town and working with better comics, and just, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And a friend of mine, Christina Pazitsky, who I started off with, started taking me on the road doing some sets, and I did some sets up in San Jose for a week, and it went really well, and I felt really good. And then, Daniel, I kind of know Daniel more from a business side of view, and I just said, hey, because I know he knows comedy, I said, hey, would you just take a look at my set and just give me some feedback and tell me what you think? And because I feel like I'm ready for a special. That's really where I feel like I'm at. Like, I've got enough time for a good hour special, and I felt like that, but I don't know that anyone else did. So I really just wanted some validation, and I felt, okay, let's try it. So I just sent him a link, and it took me, I was like, hey, Barb, do you think I should send Daniel a tape? I was like, oh, you should send it to him. And I said, hey, Daniel, can I send you a tape? He was like, yeah, send me a tape. And then he had to say, he was kind enough, he sent me a little note just saying, hey, you can send me the fucking tape?
No tape, it was a link.
No, yeah, it was a link, exactly. And then I sent him the link, and sure enough, he called me up, and he was like, hey, holy cow, you've got a point of view. And I can't think of a more affirming feedback to get from somebody that knows comedy, so that meant a lot to me.
And so, Daniel, what was the point of view that you saw in Dave? How would you describe it?
It was Dave's view on a relationship. That's the point of view. I mean, Dave had a distinctive point of
He loves me.
one point of the male point of view, and interjecting on the female point of view, at least how Dave sees it.
Right.
And that was the defining moment of saying, okay, I can see it showing this.
And I never saw that. Like, I always saw myself as more of a political, more of a sociological type of comic, so it never really occurred to me. I mean, I do talk quite a bit about the dynamic of our relationship and, different things and how that feels. And, but, I also talk about the man.
And here's something interesting, because I have somewhat sort of pseudo-managed Dave, because obviously we're partners, and I have to be honest and say that I think sometimes that's not a good thing.
I would agree.
Because I'm too close to it, and that happens in relationships with my other clients too. I sort of become, like more of a mother figure, or more of a, the wife figure, and you know how you don't listen to your mother or your wife, right? But
Well, it's interesting, and Randy on the panel today said she got out of management because she was tired of having 8 husbands.
yeah. Yeah, it's a weird, so it's great to get a different perspective, and just, sometimes when you're starting out, it helps to have a family member or someone pushing for you, because I could be the third-party voice for Dave, but now I'm like, cool, let someone else mold and put that together, because, I'm kind of too close to it. So But what's going on now with this, you guys? What does that mean? Now Dave has a point of view, so Daniel, what do you do with this? How do you,
We slowly hammer it out, and we really pick it apart, and we try and build, the awareness in Hollywood.
and what does that mean? Meetings at Arts Deli?
Meetings at Arts Deli. Trying to get different people. Again, it takes a village, so you want to try and get different people behind it and associated with it and excited about it before you actually walk in and pitch the show.
Who picks up the check at the deli?
That's a good question. Actually, the day we were there,
We split it around.
the day we were there was a big fight in the kitchen. Remember that? That was.
It was.
Yep. It was, and plates were dropped.
Nothing to do with us.
Look how excited Dave looks about this. Wow.
It's just, listen, I'm not really, I don't particularly like talking about myself, and so it's kind of difficult for me.
But you.
Where do you think that started in your life?
Let's digress. Lay down
Let's
for
talk
us.
about the Jewishness.
Lay down.
Uh-oh,
Little
here
therapy
goes.
session.
I don't know, I was just always raised that self-promotion is kind of bragging, and it's just kind of unbecoming, and, I see you banging your head, lady, I get it, I know, but
You can't get anywhere unless you sell yourself.
I understand that you can't get anywhere unless you sell yourself, is what that lady said, and I guess that's true. I don't really agree with that, actually. I think you build your life, and, I like my life, like, I'm happy. I love running the club, I love Barb, I love Josh, you know what I mean? I love Daniel. I was just saying I love being part of this community. And
But are you in love with Josh?
Yeah, but Dave.
Nobody's in love with
Dave,
that.
I have to say this. 'Cause
I wasn't expecting that when Daniel says, "Hey, I think there's a sitcom here." I'm like, "What?" We had a meeting and a guy was like, "How do you see your sitcom?" And I was like, "What are you fucking talking about?" I never had that image of it. I said, "I'm just a comic." I never saw myself that way. And, so it's still kind of an adjustment for me to see that.
But I think that your comedy has shifted, actually, because for a while, I know we always got in arguments about this, because I would say, Dave, you're a political comic, you're a political
And
comic.
I never saw myself as I saw
I
myself
kind of
as-
pigeonholed him.
Yes.
You know?
I wanted to be relevant. That's it. I wanted to be relevant. I wanted to make, I love George Carlin. I love Jimmy Dore. I love Chris Titus. I love comics that have something to say above and beyond their balls and their ass. And you know what I mean? It's just, so that's what I wanted to be. And I get very angry at the injustice in the world. And that's where, the project that I'm working on now is, Danny and Eagle and I are going to put together a podcast 99% funny. Because that's my point of view. And that gets me excited.
But what changed in your comedy is when you started talking more about our relationship, which over the last couple months, you really have done a lot more material about that, which, by the way, I used to perform as well, and Dave would not let me do material about him. I would say, hey, Dave would always say, you can't do that joke, or you can't do this joke, and I never critiqued or said you couldn't do anything about me.
That was more about...
Because all the stuff he says about me are lies, so...
I was just
it's
trying to
cool.
help you with the funny. That's really what that was about. It wasn't so much content oriented.
Right.
That's the way I view
But it's
it.
interesting that you say political comic and then you talk about relationship. But
Yeah.
you know what? How much does politics really come into your daily life?
Oh my God, he
Every
reads the
day.
paper every day.
I mean, they
every
both
day.
come into my relationship, into my life every day. And,
He has tea with Al Gore
politics
every day.
isn't so much, Barack Obama's such a disappointment, and, that's not, for me, a point of view of politics. But, I talk about gun control. Because it drives me crazy that I drive 3 blocks or 10 blocks to get to work here, and I pass 3 gun shops in Burbank. Do you really need an AK-47 in Burbank? I mean,
See, now that just talks about, okay, that's your character involved in a sitcom.
Well,
Okay,
no,
so now
that's-
that's character development because you have a problem with 3 guns, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just good.
Okay.
So let it out, Dave. Tell us.
I am letting it out. That's what I'm trying to do. I mean, listen, when I teach comedy, I teach authenticity. Authenticity before all else, I mean, I got a great piece of advice. I used to take an acting class with Elizabeth Payne, who's a wonderful actress and a wonderful coach.
Teaches Jeffrey Tambor's acting
And
classes.
she, and I was in class, and I had written these weed jokes, and I thought they were good jokes, and they got a laugh in the class, and it was an acting class, but I would do stand-up in it because she needed to fill time, so it was a great opportunity for me. And she said, "Why did you write those jokes?" And I said, "I don't know, I guess I just thought they were funny." And she said, "That's not good enough." She said, if you're only writing a joke because you think it's funny, it's going to run flat. You know, you're not going to be connected to it. It's not going to matter to you in the long term, and it's going to run flat. And she was absolutely right. And she said, you are no longer allowed to talk about things just because you think they're funny. And some of the success I've had with comedians is when I take their acts away from them. And I say, stop doing your act, take a month, don't be funny. Which sounds ridiculous, right? It just sounds ridiculous. But if you as a comedian can give yourself permission to not be funny and focus instead on being authentic, then what you'll find is that layering the funny on becomes kind of easy. Because you're talking about things that matter to you. You don't have to worry about remembering jokes because you're talking about things that matter to you and it's there for you. And so I try to live that, which is...
Well, when I started out, too, I was an actress and a kids club host, and, you know, even Dave and I as comics, I was very presenty on stage, and, thanks.
Well, because I'm trying to support you, saying I don't agree with you. No,
well, I had done, I see, okay.
See, this is the
I had
problem.
done, yes, this is all going to be in a sitcom, all right, you guys can enjoy it. But, you know what is interesting about our relationship, though, is we're both writers, and we're always changing. And building this business has been quite a venture. When we first started working together, I was like, shit, man, I can't work with you. I mean, it's really hard living with your partner and working with your partner, you know, even though he's in the back and I'm in the front, but still, it's a lot. It's very difficult.
Are we talking literally, or?
Yeah. Well, the virgin, always chiming in.
It's good that Josh is here to keep things grounded in the gutter.
Yes, yes. But what I wanted to emphasize your point of authenticity, because I think, like, with Flappers, we've been here 4 years, and everyone thinks that, you know, it's like a quick success, like it just happened. And we really have been doing comedy for, you know, 15 years before we even started talking about, you know, having a comedy club. And for people taking us seriously. We produced a show called Uncle Clyde's Comedy Contest, which is a New Faces contest. And I always felt like, you know, people just thought of us as like the little amateur, you know, New Faces producers.
Right, but that's really what it was.
Well, but we weren't authentic yet. Like, we kept, you know, finally the last 10 years, we started to really we knew we were doing comedy because we really loved it.
Right,
you
and
know?
we accepted the role that we're not up there playing with Hollywood, that what we're doing
Fuck
is
Hollywood.
we're doing a comedy contest for up-and-coming comics, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
And if we can build more on that, then we will.
But that was the authenticity of it all, that you were up-and-coming comics, so you were also helping yourself while helping others.
We made our own way.
Yes.
We just didn't wait for people to
Right.
tell us.
And what we found is that when we really enjoyed it was things like, you know, we used to do VHS tapes of all the comic shows, and we charged them $10 if they wanted their tapes, so the ways we made money. And every now and then there'd be a comic, and the comic would have a great set. They'd be like, oh, you gotta have this tape. And I don't have the $10. All right, well, take the fucking tape. You know what I mean? It's just, it was
Here,
more important to
just
us
take
if the comic got what they wanted. And I'll never forget, in the mail, we got a really nice note from a comic saying that, hey, I did your contest like 3 years ago, you don't remember me, but you guys were kind enough and you gave me my tape, and here's your $10.
Wow.
And that happened.
Dave,
that
it was
happened.
$50.
No, it was. It was
Yeah.
$10. Oh, he sent us more money?
Yes.
Something like that. Anyway, people just really responded to that. And that's a great feedback to get, you know, as a human being, is that you did something, it made a difference for me, thank you. And, you know, so that's all. It felt good.
You can listen to one of our early episodes on the FlappCast where we talk about the story of how we got Flappers going and how we had to lobby city council, and we went through a lot, and everyone told us no, and everyone told us it wouldn't work. You know?
I didn't have that experience. Well, I didn't.
Of course he didn't.
No, I didn't feel like I wasn't. I mean, you were coming from a different
Getting this point of view yet?
Well, no. Listen, people were saying. I heard people saying yes. You know, I mean, we were approached out of the blue about it's a long story, but we were approached about a different facility. Somebody had half built a comedy club, and they contacted us just based on the internet presence because Barb did such a nice job of setting that up. And from there, we just kind of decided, hey, we're going to do this. And then we started trying to put deals together. And yeah, there was a lot of
How
those
many
deals
nights did
didn't
we
work.
go, hey, let's open a comedy club? But this went on for 10 years. Let's open a comedy club. Let's open a comedy
Oh, no,
club.
but
Let's
we
open
didn't
a
get
comedy-
serious. We didn't start raising money. You know, when you start raising money and you find that, you know, you can, you know, mooch 30 grand off of this family member, and you can figure out a bank will give you a line of credit for this 40 grand, and now you got you got $70,000. That's a pile of money. That's something you can start to do something with, and so that kind of gave us the momentum. And then I was out of work and out of money. I had gone on the road a little bit and had a miserable experience, and just did not want to live that life. I like being at home. I like my girlfriend. I like my dogs. I like my garden. I don't like airplanes.
Notice girlfriend. We're not married.
We're not married.
Long time.
Yeah. Hey Barb, why aren't you married yet?
What?
Why aren't you married yet?
I'll get married as soon as I find the right guy.
Boom! There you go. That's it. That's the shit I've been living with for 15 years. In front of me, I'm right here.
Hey,
Does anybody see a show in this?
Dave, I brought you on because you do teach our comedy classes
That's
here.
correct.
And it is constantly a struggle for you, though, you want to be a comedian, but then you're a club owner. I mean, you struggle with that more than I do.
That's what I am, is I am a comedian. And I've done a much better job in the last year of renewing that commitment. It used to be when we first opened. Here, I'll tell you a quick story, which is that the first time I did the Hollywood Improv, and for comics doing the Hollywood Improv the first time, that's a big deal. That's like, a comedy mecca. And so I got booked for the Hollywood Improv, and I was so excited. And I walk in, the place is packed, and it's jumping, I'm scheduled to do like 7 minutes, which is perfect, because that's exactly what I had. And I'm in the restroom, and Bob Saget walks in. And Bob Saget says, wow, this place is smoking. I'm going to go up. And I'm like, oh, cool, Bob Saget's going to go up. So the place is jumping. Bob Saget goes up. I am scheduled there's one girl and then me following Bob Saget. Bob Saget does 45 minutes of jerking off on stage. That's really what it was. It was. The audience loved it. But if you know Bob Saget, he's filthy. And he ripped the place apart. It was completely filthy. And as soon as he was done, it sure felt like the show was over. And 80% of the audience got up and left.
And now...
And I'll be honest with you, it broke my heart. And I got up there, and by then the show had gone so long, I did 3 shitty minutes, and they lit me, and it was just miserable. And I said I never wanted to be Bob Saget. I never wanted to do that to other comedians. And so when we opened the club, I had the hardest time just kind of saying, hey, do you think maybe on this Tuesday night with 12 people in the room I can noodle a few minutes? And I didn't do it. And then the last year or so, we finally set up a system where we put a guest spot in every show. And to be blunt, that's mine. No, it is. Listen, I built this fucking club, all right? I've been here 70 hours a week for 4 years, okay? And a freaking year and a half of, so it's here.
Build your own stage.
It's here because
Control
of
your own destiny.
Yes,
Control your own destiny.
Control your own destiny.
So I still don't try to bump a lineup. I still honor a commitment that we try at Flappers. We post a lineup. We try to stick to that lineup as best we can. It doesn't happen 100% of the time. But so I've just gotten more aggressive in terms of remembering this is why we built it. We have 2 clubs. We have this one. We have the little one out in Claremont. And I told Barb when we started, I'd love to have 3 clubs. That way I can work each club for a week a month, and then just be on the road 1 week a month. And that, to me, as a comic, that's enough. Like, I'm not the most ambitious guy. Like, that's enough to be able to get up in front of an audience every weekend, that I want to. That's a lot to me. That's what I always wanted.
So Dave also teaches our advanced stand-up here, and that's why I brought you on today, because we have a segment we do every week here. We call it Punch It Up.
How does that work?
Well, we bring on some new faces. And there are great comedians here. It was so hard to choose today because we have comedians here for the festival from all over the country, actually. New York and the Midwest, and we chose 3 of them to come on today, and they're going to do 3 minutes, and they're going to perform in front of this great crowd and us, and they're going to hear this strange little noise or sound effect either when they're finished. Oh, that's great. They get applause. And then they're going to come on over, and we're going to talk to them for a minute and give them some ideas, We're going to punch up their material, give them some tags.
I'll do what I can.
All right. Daniel, will you chime in too?
I will chime in.
Excellent. All right, Joshua, let's bring them on.
Soothing voice.
I know, it is a radio voice, isn't it?
Thank you.
It's so calm. You guys are so calm.
Is
All
there
right.
a reason not to be calm?
Okay, punch it up. Let's go.
Josh
Let's
is
go.
napping and we're
Yes.
calm.
All right,
Who's
guys.
first?
First comedian coming to stage is Steve Lee.
Woo! You know where Steve is from? San Francisco. He came all the way down from San Fran. Woohoo! Give it up for Steve! Yeah.
How you doing, guys? So sometimes people look at me when I go up on stage like, this guy walk up with a crutch and is he, I would tell them, guys, I'm not disabled. It's just that all my arms and legs are made in China. It's okay. I'm just a prop comic, guys. I'm from China, and I came here when I was 17, and people ask me sometimes, Steve, how come you don't have a strong Chinese accent? Well, this is my story. I joined an exchange student program, and they dropped me off in Kansas. So, I learned a lot. I learned Kansas is where they make white people, right? So, my class, I remember back in high school, there's no minority student. So I was the only minority student. Well, of course, I was their Asian student union leader. And I was also the school black student union leader. And for some reason, I was also the school Jewish student union leader. Because I explained to them what, I had a thick accent back then, so I was like, okay, Jewish people celebrate Hanukkah in a Chinese restaurant. So that's how they put me Jewish student union leader. So I'm very good at comedy competition, and last year I won one of the competition. Thanks for not giving a damn, thank you. I won because it was a night for disabled comedians, and all the other comedians, they were in wheelchairs and they couldn't do any stand-up comedy. Yeah, I'm not very proud of that one. All right, thanks very much. This is my time, guys. My name is Steve Lee.
All right, will you grab that microphone and come and chat with us for a second? Welcome, Steve. Are you enjoying the festival so far?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Excellent. Thanks for braving it out and joining us. How long have you been doing comedy?
What do you think?
No, I want you to tell me.
I think 4.
4 years?
4 years.
Oh, great.
3
So
to 4.
very new still, really.
Yeah, kind of.
Dave, are you...
I shouldn't have told you this, right?
No,
I
no.
should say 5.
Oh, no, be honest. It's a...
Be honest about everything except your age.
Yeah.
I learned that recently. That's why I'm 29 again.
No, I was just asking just to get a feel for how long you've been doing comedy and such. And I happen to actually have a specialty of repping performers with disabilities. So I'm very excited to see you here today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What I would be curious. What is your critique of your own act?
Here's the thing. It's really interesting. My first 2 years, I did a show with similar material, and I would kill. And the next night, I would be like, people not laughing. It's the same punchline. And then one time I was interviewed for a hosting spot from a club. I don't know if you've heard of it, Rooster Teethfeather. Sure. So the owner told me, oh, it's our speaker system. We have a new speaker system. Like, people might not hear you good enough.
That's a lie.
She's
Seriously?
So here's the thing. Fortunately, I taped my set, and she's white, and I look at my set, it's like, dude, you have an accent. So she's trying not to offend me, to tell me like, you have an accent, you Chinese guy.
What she was saying is, and I was at Rooster Teethfeathers this last weekend, and it is the sound in that room is a bit of an obstacle. So I had a guest that came up and was kind of concerned because the headliner went up and he only caught about, and he's kind of old and hard of hearing, but it's not horrible. He couldn't hear the whole headliner, so
Is it that
she was cutting
bad?
out.
Wow.
Well, it was just for certain ends of it. So listen, take the critique for what it was. And I was going to say that you are a little bit hard to hear, and so it might be that you would do better if you lower the mic and speak louder. The mic might pick up your voice a little bit better.
Actually, what happened after that, I slowed down the way I talk, consciously. So when I slowed down, I did much better, always.
Good.
I want to be really blunt though, because this is, I adore you. I watched your tape. We selected you for the festival. I think
thank
you're
you.
awesome.
And you've auditioned for us previously, I remember.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah.
But I don't know what your disability is. And I think that you have to, when you are a comic specifically, like, even like if you're Asian, if you're black, if you're fat, if you're thin, whatever your thing is, everybody has something wrong with them. Everybody, every comic.
The more the better.
Yeah, hopefully. I think that when it's something obvious that but we don't understand, that you need to tell us what it is.
Here's the thing, I don't know.
That's even better.
My case is so rare, and I'm from Hong Kong in the 70s, and they didn't have like DNA technology or whatever back then.
Great.
So they couldn't tell me what's wrong with me. So I just made up a joke about my condition.
Right.
Yeah.
Great, but here's the thing: people are afraid of people with disabilities. I'm just going to tell you. And so when you're a comedian, you get on stage. People, if they're feel uncomfortable, they don't want to laugh at you because they're going to feel bad if they laugh. And so you have to give them the permission
Oh
to
my
laugh.
God, tell me about it.
Okay, yes.
Right now, the political correctness thing, especially in the Bay Area, San Francisco area, is so great. When I used that line, like, my arms and legs are made in China, and then some audience would go, oh. I'm like, really? I can't laugh at myself anymore?
But listen, and here, as a comic, you've got two reactions. One is you can react to that with hostility, or you can use it in your advantage. You know what I'm saying?
So yeah, I'm coming up with new things. Maybe you can help me out with that.
The China thing can work, but if you first tell us the honesty about what it is. That's all.
I think that's the key.
Okay.
You're missing, you're not bringing the audience in, saying, I mean, even if you don't know,
Yeah.
but whatever you have problems with, I mean, let your problems out so that people are laughing with you and understanding where you're coming from. I think that will open up the audience, then you'll be able to take them on a ride anywhere you want to go.
Okay.
Right, and I agree 100%. And you know, sharing the pain a little bit. I mean, it can't be easy. Your hands are fucked up. It's just got to be an issue. You know what I'm
And I
saying?
don't mind
How do
laughing
you
at that.
shave with that shit? You know what I'm saying? That's kind of my point. is
Yeah,
that-
I have a joke. This is my closer. Can I kind of...
Go.
Kids love to laugh at my hands, like, Steve, you have ladies' hands. And I got so upset for years until I discovered masturbation. And I can't close with that because I do a lot of clean shows.
Yes,
But
that's a good
that's
idea.
one of my favorite jokes because it's true. And it's kind of fucked up and funny.
Yeah, ladies' hands are not, they're fucked up. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of my point, is and to deal with what's obviously in front of you. Just real quick,
Yes.
the other thing that you're doing is you're sort of disassociated. So instead of having a conversation with us, you're doing a comedic presentation. And stand-up comedy as an art form is a conversation. So, I mean, you came up and you kind of said your first line was narrating what you were going to be doing instead of just doing it. So I would say really dig in with that. Yeah, Kansas kills accents, and Kansas kills everything. It's the #1 gun ownership state in America. So
that gun law
there's
again.
something there for you there. Also, just little things like you're making your life more difficult because you're adding words you don't need. So when you're talking about I was the only minority, you were saying I was the Asian student union leader and the black student. You could just say I was the only minority. I was the only Asian. I was the only disabled. I was the only black guy. I was the only Jew. You know what I mean? I was the only left-handed woman. I was, you know, and just condensing the words because I couldn't figure out. First couple times I heard you say it, student union. I couldn't understand those words. So that's where the linguistic thing happens. And then you talked about winning a comedy contest, and I generally advise comics, not a universal truth, but I generally advise comics to stay away from talking about the craft of comedy while you're doing it. Because that erases that great illusion that the audience has that we're just making this shit up as we go, right? And so when you're being very comedy conscious, it takes that away. And I think that, you know, a Bill Burr can certainly get away with it because he's so seasoned and it's such an obvious thing. But for those of us that are still up and coming, it's a little bit more difficult, and I think maybe we make it harder.
Well, we elevate performers. And the audience, if you say you're a performer on stage, you automatically, the audience thinks, oh, what have they done? You know, there's this, it puts you at a different level. And what Dave's saying is, really the art of stand-up comedy is being at the audience's level, you know,
Right.
making sure that we're just hanging out like friends.
And
you
the
know?
reason that a joke works one night and doesn't work another night, or a series if you do it the same way, is from my point of view, is often the relationship that you've developed with the audience. So if your train is leaving before they're ready and they're not on board with you, then once they're gone, unless you acknowledge that and deal with that reality, they're not able to get on board. So it's really about making sure that you're seeing the audience and you're talking to the audience and you're having a conversation with them.
Steve, you're a gold mine, though. I gotta tell you, because
You are
you're
gold.
Asian, you have bad vision, you have some kind of a lisp, your hands are fucked up. I mean, you got some shit going on. This is good.
And you wrote good jokes.
Yes.
You're present.
Thank
You've
you.
got some great jokes there, so you understand what a joke is. So from my point of view, for you, if you were my
Vulnerability.
student, I would say just get up there and fucking complain. Just complain.
How stupid people are, and the way they talk to you,
No.
and the way they
Well, not about
everything.
other people. Yeah, but
No,
about
about
yourself,
how they
about
see
your
you.
condition.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes. I mean, like you said, with the kids, what are the reactions that people have to you are just a gold mine of stuff.
I mean,
like
make
what
people shake your hand.
Yeah.
I
purpose.
think Will Ferrell said it best. I mean, when he gets up on stage, he's just committed, and you got to go for it. And unless you just let yourself vulnerable, if you don't let the vulnerability up, you're never going to know.
Yes.
Vulnerability.
I love it. That's why I do comedy.
Okay,
That's why I
cool.
love comedy.
We got 9 minutes left.
I know we got 2 more comics. Steve, we're gonna see you. What shows are you in the festival?
Friday night, 7 o'clock.
7:30.
Yeah, 7:30.
Yeah, come down and see Steve Lee in the Yoo-Hoo Room this
Thank you,
Friday.
guys.
Thank you,
Thank you
Steve.
so much.
All right.
All right, next up we have Mike Glazier.
Mike, where's Mike from? Where are you? Chicago. God, this is awesome. Mike from Chicago.
Thanks, everybody. Hi. So one thing I learned this past Sunday is that it just takes one guitar player to ruin a farmer's market. What do you get when you cross a horse with a caterpillar? You get to play God. It's incredible. I know it's odd to think about, but we're living in a period piece. This is a period piece. And that means 1,000 years from now, a costume designer is going to win the Oscar for putting the female lead in sweatpants that say juicy. This next one's weird. What if it's our hair growing a body? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no way to prove it's not. The fact that I thought that means my hair could have thought. I think architects have it made because they can't be fired because we don't know what hasn't been found yet. Like, their boss would just be like, hey, you're fired. The architect's like, nah, nobody's dug over here. And he's like, oh, Marcus! God, as soon as we find it all, you're out. Relish is not good enough to be its name. Just, no. Like, nobody's, oh God, I can't stop eating the jars. Like, I got a phone call today, found some news out. My uncle is a regular on Cops. He's not the cop. I went on a mirror tour, and the tour guide was like, and to your left, you'll see your right. This last one is a poem, and it's about an awful woman that I saw hitting and yelling at her awful kids on the bus. There was a woman on the bus, heavyset, wearing wet gray spandex, guns tucked in them. She's got 6 kids, she's yelling at them, she's hitting them. They get off the bus and she crosses them against traffic. The kids make it across, but she stops in the middle of traffic to light a cigarette. Her phone rings, she answers her gun. Orphans. I'm Mike Glazer, thank you.
Mike, come on over. Hello, thank you. All the way from Chicago, huh? Awesome. How long you been doing comedy, Mike?
Stand-up 5, sketch, a lot of writing, directing, sketch for like 7.
Oh, great. So you're primarily, did you come from the sketch background first, or did you stand up
Yeah,
first? Oh, okay.
I found, and then stand-up is amazing in Chicago. You can go all over the place to do it, so it was really nice to be able to go everywhere.
Great.
Yeah.
Dave, you're looking at me. Are you ready? You want me to start?
Well, listen, we've met and we've talked comedy a couple of times, and I'm a fan. You write great jokes. I love the relish
joke.
I love the joke.
Funny.
But there's no you. There's not a lot of you inside of it. So I would recommend, I'd put you through an exercise where you got to just be revealing on stage in front of people. Just so you get used to talking a little bit more openly and being a little bit more, personal. I'm not talking necessarily biographical, but talking about things that matter to you. The other thing you're doing is you're working really hard because, there's other, you're not tagging anything. So it's kind of like set up and a punch, and then we're starting all over again. So you got a good opportunity to kind of expand on what you're talking about. And then you're messing up architect and archaeologist.
Oh, no wonder it didn't work, everybody. So sorry about that.
But wait a minute, there's a great, what I love about that is it's such a huge tell on a comic that's doing a joke that he's not that interested in, right? Because if you're talking about something that matters to you, you don't fuck that up. You know what I'm saying? So that's
you're reciting material.
Yeah, you're being disassociated and you're doing a joke that you think is funny, and you're right. You know what I mean? They're funny jokes, and you can develop a fantastic 15 minutes. But it's like Stephen Wright. We all know him. He writes perfect jokes. He's a wonderful comedian. I can't watch that for a half an hour. Because it's all.
Let me give you an example of the relish, because that's a great joke, right? And you can keep that joke. But what if you tell us how you discovered the relish? Like in your fridge where there's nothing else in there but, a tiny little half-polished bottle of relish. So you give us a visual of that disgustingness in your shitty-ass apartment, and now you deliver that relish joke. Now we are with you, and you have a point of view. Make sense?
Well, in my show that I do at Upright Citizens Brigade, we close with that joke, and then I chug a 12-ounce jar of relish to close the show. Yeah, it works, and it's memorable, and it's a great closer. So yes, visual, you're totally right.
But here's what we're talking about. I used to do sketch too, so there's a big difference between sketch and stand-up, and you're seeing it right here. Like that works great in a sketch act. But like I said, in a stand-up, what we're looking for is your story. Like I said, why are you telling the joke about relish? We need to know why. Otherwise, it's just a one line. And you can do that and you can get laughs, and there have been people who just deliver those jokes like that.
Right. I like that relish doesn't live up to its name. It's a great joke. But shit does. Right. I mean, that's what I'm saying in terms of a tag, is you got lots of tags. And if you're going to do that, go all the way.
And also, he didn't do a monotone. He said, well, shit, he took it up a notch. Like, I think the whole part of your set is just connectivity. I mean, they're right on. At the end of the day, is the best way to sell a joke is if it's real and you're connected to it. But if you're just sitting there telling the joke, I'm lost.
And let me also add from a branding point of view, which I always like to do, you're a white male comic, which unfortunately is 95% of most comics. Maybe, am I off? 90%? I don't know.
93.2%.
Thank you. Statistician over here, Joshua. But the point is, like, you're wearing a hoodie, and I mean, is this how you dress all the time? Where do you work? What do you do? What's your life? Are you just a slob or what? I don't know. Like, I mean, what do you do? Like, I don't know. I can't tell. It's very nondescript, right?
It'd be great if he was an actual glazier.
What?
Like for glass?
Yeah.
Oh, what does mirror mean, by the way? What was you said, mirror tour? Am I crazy? But what does that mean?
Like a mirror?
A tour of mirrors.
Oh, a mirror tour. Oh, I heard mirror tour, and I was like, what does that mean?
That's meerkats, if there's a tour of meerkats.
Meerkats.
Yeah.
Oh, that I know.
You and the fucking meerkats. It's just not appropriate.
That is the first time I've ever said meerkats, ever. What do you mean you with
Thundercats, excuse me.
Yeah.
There's always working in some kind of cat reference nobody gives a shit about. Hey,
I know, but I don't mean to, I'm not slamming you for that. I'm just saying when you're doing that kind of observational and one-linery jokes, and you also are a white male with it's very hard to stand out that way. That's all. Because I don't know you. I want to know you.
You're funny.
Yes.
You write great
You are
jokes. You know what I mean? And just because Barb and I are pushing you in this direction or that direction, here's the trick with stand-up comedy is you got to figure out what works for you. And different shit works for different people. So
The
if you're
voice we've
satisfied,
talked
if you're
about.
happy with what you're doing, don't listen to us.
Okay.
No. I think the one thing you do need to look at is connectivity.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean,
That's
we're
the
right,
overall.
but that doesn't mean you have to accept it.
However you want to take your career.
Thank you so
Y'all are
much.
great. Thanks a lot.
I hope that was fun. All right, we got time for one more.
Jasmine Pierce, where are you from?
All right,
Very
the
fast, very
lady.
fast.
Jasmine, New York.
New York. Jasmine
Woo,
Pierce.
city girl.
Hello. I am a huge accident. A lot of people like to ask me what it's like to be a love child, but I'm not a love child. I'm an "Are you sure it's mine and are you keeping it?" child. And it's fine. My parents are great, but they made some mistakes. My mom is white and my dad is black, which apparently makes me Dominican. But I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, where there's only black people or white people. So when I moved to New York, I heard, "Hey, mommy," and I was like, "Oh, I'm not your mommy, sweetie. Are you lost? How can I be your mommy? You're like 46 years old. This is weird." So that's how I found out I was Dominican. The way that I found out that I was black is actually cooler. When I was like 4, I was in daycare. It's just a bunch of white kids and me. And we play this really cool game called Cherry Belly, where you smack your belly until it turns red like a cherry, and then you win. And we're playing one day, and all the white kids are like, "Ooh, yeah, my belly's red, I win." And I was like, "Yeah, me too." And they were like, "No, you're still brown." And I was like, "Okay." So I cried to my mom that night, like, "What the fuck?" And she explained to me that she's white, dad's black, I'm gray or something. And I learned 2 very important things that day. First of all, that I'm half black, which makes me half cooler than almost everyone in this room. Second, that white people like to invent games only they can win. It was a big learning experience. My dad likes to teach me a lot of lessons too. When I was 12, we were watching the Discovery Channel, and a bunch of white people flew to the Arctic to swim in the Arctic Ocean. They're like breaking records and getting frostbite. One of them died. And my dad just turns to me and says, "Jasmine, black people don't do that shit." And he's right. Black people stay alive. But he also likes to remind me that since I'm half white, when I get kidnapped, I have a 50-50 chance of making the news. It's so nice, right? But I think the 2 most important lessons that I've learned from life, and it's what I'm going to leave you with, I didn't learn from my dad. I learned them from dating. First of all, that I prefer dating potheads to dating alcoholics, because whiskey dick sounds way better than it is. And second of all, I think most stereotypes are incorrect. For example, I have 3 black ex-boyfriends, and all of them got locked up for dealing drugs, so they obviously can't run very fast. Thank you, I'm Jasmine Pierce.
Wow, Jasmine, how long you been doing comedy?
About a year.
Excellent. What vulnerability. See, I know your story. I know who you are, and it was fantastic. You were very vulnerable. The thing that I have a little exercise for you that I would present to you, because I think your jokes are phenomenal. I think your point of view is phenomenal. I just feel like you're a little bit in a delivery style, like kind of a telling joke style instead of yes. Well, just like here's what a comedian should deliver the joke like this, right? Because your stuff is so real and so good. Here's a little exercise you could try. I always call it the in the cab story. So like you're riding in a cab, try and get a joke out without telling the cab driver you're telling a joke, right? So like what's a Puerto Rican girl do in LA? You know, some way to get yourself into a conversational style. Sorry, that's
not an architect.
Dominican. Right. It's all the same, right? But you get it. Yeah. Anyway, that's just a little exercise. Or when you're in the grocery store and you're talking to the cashier checking out. Sometimes that's when I'll try and do it too. Maybe slip out a joke in there. So instead of you going, I'm going to tell you a joke now. But that's just my big note. I felt it was a little inauthentic. But overall, amazing, and you can really do this. And
you can do this.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No, take that away. Listen, you're working way too fast.
Okay.
You're talking.
Oh, I'm nervous.
That's fine. That's fine. No, I totally understand it. And listen, that's what happens when comics when you give them 3 minutes. I'm like, oh shit.
I gotta get all of it.
I got my 45-minute special in 3 minutes. They're talking fast. beyond that, though, the thing that I loved about you, besides the fact that you wrote good jokes, good relevant jokes, is and that's the key word to me, is that you have a relevant voice. You have an actual commentary from your point of view, from your life experience about the realities of living in this country. And you present a critique on race without playing into the bullshit stereotypes that have been done a million times and are universally offensive and unnecessary.
It came from you.
And it came from you and from your experience. And you opened doors that you could have done more on. When you said white people invent games that only they can win. Mm-hmm. That is a brilliant punchline. It's also a brilliant observation on the reality of the world we live in. And I wanted, give me some other games, you know, that white people have invented that only they can win. Like
Candyland.
Everything.
I used to tag it. I used to tag it with like life, but then I think it got confused because I meant the game of life, but it didn't work. So
yeah,
and Candyland.
And the comment that the three black men that you dated. I mean, listen, I'm a bleeding heart liberal, and you know, my mother was a freedom rider, so I grow up with a very I have a very clear edge on this. And so when you're going there, I wanted more about that's the game that the white people have set up that you can't win. You know what I'm saying? It's because the white person deals the same drugs. They get money and they go to Wall Street. You know what I'm saying? And a black guy gets arrested and locked up because that's just the reality of the world we live in. So I wanted you to go even farther because you know because you're biracial, you have just a unique perspective and the ability to
and a
push
woman,
very
too.
hard. And a woman, and you're tall.
Everybody feels the rest of us.
Yeah, everybody's tall.
And young. I know you're not supposed to say, we're off the record.
I'm 24.
I'm just curious. Yeah. Well, that you have a nice maturity about you at that age, actually.
I'm
Have you been
nanny,
doing this
so,
for a year?
Yeah.
Okay, now here's a question. This is an important question. How much time do you have?
I think like 10 to 12 minutes.
Okay, that's a good answer.
That's decent.
That's a good answer.
Good answer. Yeah. True answer is what we're looking for.
But I think Dave's right. I mean, you're right on target, and you can start to blow some of those little chunks into bigger chunks and really expand it out and really take where you identify with even bigger. And I think the best thing that I would tell you to do right now is, with your point of view, go back and look at Chris Rock's first 1 hour comedy special. Okay. I mean, where he really just puts out his point of view. It wasn't well produced, meaning like it wasn't scripted. It was just him being him and his point of view, and he was coming at it hard. And I would take a look at that.
And watch John Oliver.
Yeah, John Oliver
Watch John
for you,
Oliver.
for sure. But can I also add on your opening, just the word huge accident was a little mean, I thought, for an opening. Like, I thought
think just I'm not a love child.
Yeah, or the half black joke right away, just to get, because it was such a good applause. I mean, I'm just saying, like, we like you, so when you just say, hey, I'm a huge accident, it worked right then up front. I felt a little like, oh, but I like her. So it's almost too mean on yourself. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Versus,
this part is usually in the middle with other setups before it, so don't usually say that.
I know it sounds a little cliche, like coming right out and saying the half black and all that thing, but I think you had some, I can't remember exactly which one, but I think it was when you said I was half black and...
My mom is white and my dad is black, which apparently makes me Dominican.
Right. I mean, that even might work up front maybe with, I just felt like that should be reversed a little, or, embedded in a little
You're in
more.
good shape. Have fun.
Thank you.
Enjoy the festival. We're happy to have you here. Thanks, Jasmine. All right, we have run out of time. But thank you to my partner, Dave Reinitz, for joining us today. And our special guest, Daniel Paul. You'll be seeing him all week. Thanks for moderating the panel today. My co-host, Joshua Schneider. Claremont. What's going on in Claremont this week?
Brian Moot.
Oh, Brian Moot. He's so cute.
Cute Moot.
Cute Moot. Hey, Brian Moot is in the documentary Unhung Hero. His brother made that documentary. Great documentary. You should watch it. Brian's in that too. But he's going to be in Claremont Friday and Saturday. Shows are at 7
and 9:30, and then you should come back and join us for our Best of the Fest shows this Saturday at 9 p.m. and 11 p.m.
Yes, we have the comedy festival going on all week, and the best performers from throughout the week in both the Yoo-Hoo Room and the main room are going to be on our main stage on shows Friday and Saturday, 7, 9, and 11. It's a little bit out of our regular schedule, so we hope you'll you'll join us for that. Thanks to everyone for being here at the Burbank Comedy Festival. Oh, and if you are listening to this tonight, we are having an after party at the Holiday Inn Crystal View Lounge. Everyone is welcome, even if you're just a comedy fan and want to come out and hang out with all these crazy comedians.
I want to see how long people keep talking before they physically talk.
I know. Can anyone just... All right, clap out.
Alrighty, guys. You guys here for the open audition?
All right, excellent. So welcome everybody.